Everyone. My name is Nicole French. For those that do not know me, I'm the person that's been emailing you. I am program coordinator with 4-H Ontario, and I run, for the most part, the youth camp and conferences that are put on across the province. So I want to thank you all for joining tonight, and hopefully this can answer any questions. We can do a bit of sharing of knowledge. So this is kind of what we're going to go over. This is the agenda for tonight. So the first thing I just wanted to touch on is some registration considerations, especially for non-members. So because it's a 4-H event, anyone that attends is covered under our insurance. So you're covered that way if you have non-members coming to the event. The considerations you want to take when having non-members come, so you'll have their participant form. If they are a member, you can ask for that from the parents, which will have all of this information that's on the screen right now. But if you are having non-members, these are kind of the three things you might want to consider getting. We are asking you to share your photos with us, or if you're just taking photos for your local association, the media release is a big one. It is on our website. I can also share it again after this meeting if you need a copy of it. So just getting a written signature releasing that you can use photos is a big one. And then an emergency contact, especially if the youth are being dropped off and left with you, make sure you have some way of contacting. We tend to, for all of our programming, we tend to get 2 emergency contacts just in case the first one is busy, just to have that. And then any dietary or medical information. It does not have to be as extensive. If anyone's filled out one of our provincial ones before, we do ask a lot of questions. This is only if you're feeding them at the event, like if it's a half day and you're not giving out snacks or stuff like that, maybe dietary isn't the biggest thing, but medical information that would be pertinent. I know, like, we've seen kids come through, like maybe they wear hearing aids or they have some sort of speech delay, and you might want to know that going in, especially when working with them and doing that kind of stuff. So it's optional for the parents, obviously, to fill out, but having that information can just help the day run a bit smoother. And obviously, any dietary or allergies, especially allergies that require an EpiPen, are just great to know. But I know this is all probably old hat for a lot of you. A lot of you are volunteers in your local association, so you're used to seeing this stuff come from 4-H members. It's just a good reminder if you're inviting non-4-H members to, like, where they get dropped off. If the parent's not staying, if you are in charge of the non-member for duration of time, this is kind of the stuff you should look to get. I did provide a sample. So I know some of you have gotten your boxes, some are still coming. There was a sample registration form in the handbook that was in there, and I'm also going to share, Autumn is going to put a digital version of the handbook on our website, so you'll have access to it digitally. The sample registration form I made in jot form just as a way to show you what we kind of asked for and what you could ask for. There isn't a way for you to use that exact form. It was just more of an idea of questions. I am able, though, to send you a PDF version of the form that you could use. It's a fillable PDF, so you could send that out. It just wouldn't be a Google form where it collects all the responses for you. You'd have to just get individual PDFs. And we'll keep going. So next is kind of a typical day when we ran Discovery Days. I know from reading all of your registrations, everyone's kind of going to run it a little differently. I just wanted to give you kind of how we've done it in the past, if this is something you want to copy, or kind of what we've done, so you can have an idea if you haven't volunteered at a Discovery Day or had a youth attend. So we would have, our day would start around 9:30. Obviously, our volunteers and staff would get there a little bit before to set up and do all that. The youth would arrive at 9:30 to a check-in desk. So just having a list and making sure if it is a drop-off situation, having the parent or guardian that is dropping them off just confirm who's picking them up. So we're sending the kid with the right person, just as a level of risk management with that. And then we'd have the youth decorate shirts. Not the kids, we say 9:30. Not everyone always showed up at 9:30. So we would have them decorate shirts as they came. And then as they finished, we would run an icebreaker or a get to know you game until everyone was done their shirt. We do some sort of welcome, an introduction to the day. And then we broke into stations. And this really depended on how many kids you had and how many people you wanted at each of the stations. So sometimes we would run 3 stations and then have a break and then run the next 3, or we would run all 6 at once. It all depends on how many volunteers you have, and obviously how many kids you have and how many kids you want in each station. If it's a bunch of clover buds, you probably want smaller groups than if it's kind of on that 10 to 12-year-olds. We found that they could be in larger groups and still manage to do stuff well. We do a lunch, take a group photo, and then we had something called creative expression time or quiet activity time, where they do a bunch of different things from reading to coloring to playing cards or something like that, some sort of like wind down. Just especially if it's hot out, we ran a lot of them in the summer. It's a nice cool off too. And then we did Olympics or team game style events for about an hour in the afternoon, which again, we would base it on the weather to see if we're taking breaks in between those. And every year the afternoon kind of looked different, but it was big group team building style games in the afternoon. Did an evaluation, wrapped up, and the kids were out by 3:30. So that's kind of how we ran it, just to give you an idea on how the boxes were based if you were going to run about 6 stations, but you can also completely run them however you want. But that was just an idea. So I'm just going to run through quickly what's in the box, what the different activities are, what you were given versus some other materials that you might have or might need to have on hand in case. So to give a brief kind of synopsis of the boxes, unfortunately, our funding got cut for Discovery Days, which left kind of a gap in funding to make the boxes. So we've done some budgeting in the programming department to fill the hole in order to get the boxes out that we did start registering people for. But this does mean that not every box that came after that, like for that April 1st deadline, will get all t-shirts. It might be some t-shirts and some notebooks. So we had, I think, when the first year I started, so 5 years ago, we had white notebooks and they were called gratitude journals, and the kids got to decorate them. So if you don't get all t-shirts, you might get a few gratitude journals, or gratitude journals than t-shirts. It just depends on numbers and stuff like that. For those that already have their boxes, you obviously have 20 t-shirts in your box. With the funding as well, we're using up old supply and we were only able to get a few more new shirts. So that's why there's a variety of sizes in your boxes as well. But the first activity would be their t-shirt decorating or that journal that has the 4-H logo on it. They're white. So in your box will be either t-shirts and markers or books and markers. And then just tablecloths. And what we found, some kids write their name as a design on their t-shirt, but at the end of the day, having the youth trying to remember what shirt they drew on can be a challenge. So writing their name on like the inside collar or somewhere on the shirt so they're easier to hand out at the end of the day would be a suggestion in some sort of permanent marker. So that's the first activity that's in the box. Activity number 2 is a flower pot craft. So you have mini terracotta pots in the like little 2-inch, and then you have a set of paint and some brushes. I think there's 20 brushes, and then each kid will get to go home with some sort of flower seed package that they can plant when they're at home, or if you wanted to get soil and do it there, you can do that, but obviously the paint will be wet. So also writing their name on the inside of the flower pot would be helpful as well. The things that's not in your boxes would just be water and cups to rinse the brushes, and tablecloths again, to protect any surfaces. Kids get wild with paint. So that's that. Activity number 3 is the STEM rockets. You have film canisters, Alka-Sizer tablets, construction paper, glue sticks, and there is a pair of scissors also in there, or 2 pairs of scissors for the cutouts that could be used for this, and crayons for another activity that could be used for this one as well. So they can make the rocket look whatever they want. You'll need water if you're going to let them launch the rocket at your Discovery Day, or if they're taking them home to launch them, maybe just some instructions on what to do, which is put water, the Alka-Sizer tablet, and put the lid on, and then it will fly. But if you're running it there, you'll just need water for this one. For the mindfulness jars, so they come with small, I think they're 2-ounce bottles with glue, glitter, and there's also a tablespoon. I have an example on my desk, but I've lost it. Tablespoon measuring, so to help with measuring a tablespoon into each of their jars. So you don't have to bring that. That's in, I think there's 2 in each of the kits for that. Optional is food coloring if you want to make it more fancy, but the glitter does wonders by itself. And then just warm water, tap warm water is fine for this, just to get that glue mixed up. I know on the handbook it does say a fork or a whisk, but putting the lid on and letting the kids shake the jars will do just the same thing. So that's activity number 4. Number 5 is you were given a full set of Go for the Gold questions and the instructions on how to run a Go for the Gold game, or you can run it completely different depending on the age group of the kids. Sometimes the 10 to 12-year-olds have done Go for the Gold before, so they're excited and they know the rules, where like the 6-year-olds, they just all answer as a group sometimes. You can request the buzzers for your event. You can do that through the website. There is limited availability, obviously, with the preference being for local and regional Go for the Gold events that are happening. And then if there is buzzers available, then they'll be sent to local Discovery Days after that. So then there's also 2 sets of cutouts, a cow and a tractor, in your box. There's also activity books. If you've been to one of our booths at the Royal or IBM or something like that, you've seen the activity books that Autumn made. They have a bunch of different stuff in them, from coloring sheets to and extra cutouts and all that kind of stuff is in these books. So there's 40 cutouts and then 20 activity books in your boxes as well. Scissors, crayons, glue sticks, so they can make the cutouts at your event. There is only 2. I only provided 2 scissors per box, so more scissors might be required depending on how you're running your day. If everyone's doing it at once, you'll need some more scissors and potentially more markers as well. So that's the last activity that's in the box. I know a bunch of you had discussed wanting 2 boxes. Obviously, with the funding constraints, we could only send 1 per association. So some of you have more, obviously, than 20 kids coming to your events. So the ways to stretch these activities, as I said, I gave 40 cutouts and then additional handbooks. So that's enough for like 60. I think there's 2 cutouts in the handbook, in the activity books. So you would have enough for everyone to do that. Another way to kind of stretch the box is, obviously not every kid does every activity. So maybe they choose 2 activities or 2 crafts to do. And then you can get at least 40 kids through the box, or if 1, you have enough for 60 or so kids to do all the activities, if that makes sense. Another thing at our when we ran Discovery Days, was we had a judging station usually, so that helps space out kids at the event. Lots of judging classes and how to set up a judging classes. There's more information on our website about that as well. Also, a snack break set. We usually did something that they had to put together, which can help space out the kids if you have more kids. That works. Yes, and then the creative free time as well. Also, the supplies that are in your box are very easily accessible. If you want to find the exact thing I put in your box, I'm more than happy to share. Most of it was off of Amazon or from Dollar Tree or Dollar Store, something like that. So they're very accessible to find in your local communities, hopefully. And I'm more than happy to share where I got a certain thing for that as well, if you're looking for that. The only thing would be the t-shirts that are not accessible to get, but that's ways to stretch the materials. In the book, at the end of the handbook, there is a list of icebreakers and team building activities, from low equipment needed to absolutely no equipment needed to run these activities. They are it's listed in the handbook, low to no supplies needed. And then there's links at the end of the handbook for more resources. If you don't get the description, you can always, there's lots of websites online and videos that show how to do it, or reach out to my, I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction of more resources. This kind of icebreakers and building helps fill the gaps of time, because clover buds obviously go a little bit slower than your older age groups. So it helps kind of bridge those gaps, and lets to have some of those in your back pocket is always very helpful. So that's, what was that? So after your event, we're asking for two things. We're asking you to submit some photos to us. We'd love to share the great work that you guys are doing, and make sure you get your volunteers and yourselves in the photos. We all have lots of pictures of our youth members, and we love seeing them. But we never have enough of our volunteers, and you guys are the backbone of the program. So we'd love to see you guys in the pictures as well. That's just a follow-up with the media release, just making sure if you're sending the photos to us that every kid in the picture, it has media release, so we are able to use them. And then after your event, we'd love for you to fill out the feedback form. I will be sending, so it's in the handbook, the link for it already, but I will send a follow-up email once at the end of summer, just as a reminder after most of your events have been completed, to fill it out then. And we'd love to hear from you to just make the program better for the years to come. That is kind of the end of my spiel. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for running at Discovery Days in your local association.